I've been traveling around different places here for about 25 years. And I was in Tibet a few years ago. In Tibet, some people have a reaction to the high altitude. And you can't tell who is going to have a reaction or how bad it might be. Some people actually die of the reaction. And just because they're young doesn't mean they might not have a bad reaction. And just because they're old doesn't mean they're going to die. So I had met a number of people on the train, and we were going to go to a place called Namu Chohu, which is even higher than Lhasa. It's at 17,000 feet. And so there was this young girl. She was young, healthy. She was 26 years old. We were climbing up the mountain, and then she collapsed. And there were 10 of us. We had hired a Tibetan driver. And what are we going to do? She's really sick. She can't even walk. So me and the Tibetan driver, I decided I would go back to Lhasa with her and the Tibetan driver. It's a long drive from Namu Chohu to Lhasa. So we left the other 9 people there on the mountain, Namu Chohu, and we drove back all night to Lhasa. We stopped at one small village, and they had some nurses there, but they said, she's in danger. You have to get her to Lhasa. And so we drove the whole night. We finally got her to Lhasa. Lhasa is 12,000 feet. By that time, she was well. She was kind of back to normal. And this is the thing. If you are at a high altitude and you get this altitude sickness, there's only one way: get down to a lower altitude. Otherwise, it could be very bad. So we were in Lhasa, and the other 8 people were up on the mountain. But this was I think it was 2007. There were no cell phones up there. So we contacted the state security people, and they had some radios. So they had radio contact with Namu Chohu, and they found all the foreigners. Well, actually, there were only 2 foreigners. The others were Chinese, and they all hitchhiked back to Lhasa. We saw them the next day. In Chinese, we have a saying, "Tong zhong you yi, yi zhong you tong." That means everything is the same, but within the samenesses lie their differences. Everything is different, but within their differences lie their sameness. So I have a few stories about Taiwan. When I first got there, many of the older people spoke Japanese because they fought in the Japanese army. And I remember I used to like to hang around with the Aborigines, the mountain people. So I was up in the mountains one day, and this guy came up. I was sitting there and eating, and this guy came up and he started screaming at me in Japanese because I looked like a foreigner, and he was in the Japanese army during the war. So he was upset that I was there, but I was traveling with a policeman who was a special policeman for the Aborigine tribes, and he came up. He spoke Japanese, and he told the guy that I was okay and I was in Taiwan, and so we all got drunk. That's how things happen. Sometimes you almost get in a fight, but then you get drunk and you make friends with them. I don't like to go on tours. I like to be free to meet people along the way and to stay with people, native people, along the way. If you stay in a hotel, probably nothing interesting will happen. But in my life, I have hitchhiked probably 50,000 miles in 47 states, 10 provinces in Canada, 20 provinces in China, Tibet, Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, and I've hitchhiked and backpacked around Russia, Kazakhstan, India, Southeast Asia, Africa. There are many opportunities to meet people, not stay in hotels. And you can meet new friends, stay at their house, meet people on the street. These are a few stories, so maybe I can tell you some of these stories over a period of time. I'm Uncle Hans. Hopefully you'll join me as we discuss Chinese stories and more about Chinese characters.